Okay, it says that we are live, so hello everyone. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. This is going to be session number 12 for Beneath the Banner's Shadow, a D&D campaign that we have been running here on the channel. And it is D&D 5th edition, and this is kind of an Arthurian, English, historical, Germanic, kind of all rolled into one, very light on the historic. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far. We had a little bit of a hiatus last month, and we are now back hitting the ground running. So before we actually do get started, I'm going to go ahead and give the same warning I give all the time. If bad language is something that bothers you, if mature topics, if stressful situations are something that bother you, this game, this entire campaign is a bad idea. Turn around. Go back. Oh, yes. I would like to thank, as always, Rachel Ayers. She is the artist who did the design for all of the shields that you will be seeing throughout the campaign. She was awesome to work with, so go check her out on Facebook. You can find her there. Hire her to do your stuff. Yeah, I think that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to my players so that they can introduce themselves, channels, plug whatever they want, tell us who they're going to be playing, etc. And then we'll get this started. So first up, Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen. I have a channel called Myth and Gears where we play mostly Genesis games, live plays, but we are starting to branch out into 5th edition and Mecha Hack. And so if you want to see any of that, check it on out. Tonight, I am playing Ariana Shiel. She is a corrode elf. And she's a little bit out of her comfort zone here down in the south part where there's really nothing but humans and humans that don't particularly like her sort. So we'll see how things go. We're excited for this.
I'm Baron. I run the YouTube channel RWD Gaming. That's been on a hiatus for the better part of a couple months. Renovating some stuff and hopefully coming back with a fury here at the end of the year. But I will be reprising my role as Masaka Tord, the rough and tumble orc paladin who's ready to finally go somewhere where I fit in better. Somewhat. A little. I'll go ahead and throw it over to Eli.
Hello, everyone. I am Eli Kurtz, and I am here tonight playing Sir John Lightenor, a young knight of the realm who has just been a whole mess of trouble this entire time. And some real heavy stuff went down in the last session, so I'm sure we'll be dealing with some of the fallout out of that today, and that's very exciting. I am on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter at ZapDynamic, and I want to give a shout out really quick to the Playtest podcast by Chris Foster, where I have a playtest going on right now of my upcoming game, Errant Deeds. So you can check out Playtest Pod on Twitter for information about how to listen to that.
I don't know who you're pointing at.
Steve, go for it.
Hey, everybody. I'm Steve. I'll be playing Dane tonight. My channel also is on hiatus, but I will drop a hint again to be on the lookout for a upcoming project between Jeremy and myself, starting at the beginning of next year. And then Josh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh, and tonight I'm going to be reprising my role as Eddard Bainton, the bookish sort out of Warrenton, who's been on quite the journey with these folks in the past. Had to have been at least a month or two by now in game time, but it's hard to keep track of. Anyway, I have a YouTube channel, Roll the Bones. You can follow me on Twitter at Roll the Bones TV. And yeah, that's about it. And with the powers invested in me as the party bard, I now pass the story to the DM.
Excellent. Fantastic job. Yeah. This campaign is is incredibly special to me. You guys have done such a great job of weaving all of these characters into the fabric of what's going on and keeping everything that I throw at you fresh and relevant, and having a real impact in the way that your characters respond. So I cannot wait to dive back in and get some more of that. It's been too long. So do you guys have any questions before we start?
Josh, do we have a question?
I think I have a question. I think it's that. I don't know, Eli. Do we have a question?
I can't. It's right on the tip of my tongue. It's Karen, help me out here.
Steve, Karen, do you know?
I know what you guys are talking about. I know I should know this, but
Steve, help us out, man.
All right. Hold on a second. Can
Oh,
come on.
can we start yet?
There we go.
Yeah, that was it. That was definitely it.
Wow. That gets more and more painful every time. Yes, we can start. Thank you very much, smartasses. All right. Let's do some artwork. Allegiance is an easy thing to give. It asks of us to honor our promise through duty when the time comes. But the honoring of this commitment is only truly tested when we are pushed to our limitations. For it is in these moments that pretense is stripped away, and we are confronted with the truth of where our loyalties lie. Fealty, if not earned through the avenue of love, is the weakest of all armors. A loyalty born of love, however, makes us into the armor, an armor which no hammer could forge and no blade could pierce. But love is not an easy thing to give, and it asks much from us by comparison. Poor be such a soul that finds their love and their allegiance in battle with one another, for he must choose between the death of his oath or that of his heart. We wind back the hands of time ever so briefly. Kerwall at night, the rain hammering the city from above. The courtyard is filled with people, but is utterly still and quiet. Aside from the sounds of mortal combat, the clang of steel against steel, the shouts and grunts of two knights locked in a duel. As Sir John Lightenor and Sir Gerhard Volchester circle one another and trade blows, elsewhere in the city, there is movement. Small, lithe figure darts from one shadow to the next. What is going on, Ariana Shial? What are you doing?
Ari has taken this moment, this distraction that is going on, to disappear from the others for a moment. And as she darts through the city, she is looking for a green space, a clearing, something where she can touch nature. And eventually she comes across it, probably at the outskirts of town, maybe close to the riverbank itself. And you see this lithe figure kind of kneel down on the ground, and she makes a hole, a small cavity in the stones. And she takes out her water skin and she pours water into this little cavity that she's made, and a puddle grows. And sitting back, we see that the puddle reflects the moon. And she starts to chant. Fal nodal et vina, malane nahel, nalina tial, teshihal na lambas. And she pulls out a small dagger and she cuts the palm of her hand. Fal merel antalus, meyane nahel, elersat nesh nahelim marithari. And as the blood drips into this pool of water that she's made, it starts to swirl. And eventually the swirling clears, and instead we no longer see the moon reflected in this little puddle, but instead we see a clearing. And in the clearing is a very large mushroom that's almost like a tree stump. And Ariana Shiel then pulls out a scrap of paper. She hurriedly writes something on it before folding it up and putting her hand into the puddle and onto the mushroom. And once she's done that, she kind of closes her eyes and bows her head. And says, Blessed Luna, Anate Elan. And she splashes the water and the scene disappears. And then quickly, she runs back to the group. What I should say too, as you see the writing, as she's writing down on the missive, the words that she's writing are in Elven. And for those who could read it, it would say, possession confirmed, but remains unactivated. Twin spotted in Kerwell curio shop, but unable to procure. And with that, she then puts her cloak hood back up and heads back towards the duel.
Camera, the view, if you will, stays with the small nature area, this puddle, as it's rippling. Ariana Shial departs, and after a few beats, we see a leather boot step into frame beside the puddle. We cut back to the courtyard where Gerhard Volchester now lies dead, staring up, unblinking into the rain, with a large, gaping wound in his chest. Standing over him in his bedclothes, clinging to his somewhat diminished frame, is the Baron of Kerwell, Nicholas Lightenor, Sir John's father. Not far from where Gerhard lays, John is also laid upon his back. John, you have looked up as your opponent has fallen to the mud. Looking upwards, you can see the frame of your father towering behind him. Before you sit up, before you react, then the moment of perhaps stunned hesitation. The other three of you, is there anything that you are saying or doing in the immediate moments that followed?
Dude. I think we're actually probably, I don't know how close we were in proximity, like the crowd around us, pushing towards the fence.
Yeah, I would say the closest of you is maybe 30, 40 feet.
Are we aware of the outcome?
Yes. Again, like the entire courtyard, almost all of Kerwall has turned out to watch this exchange. You guys managed to basically kind of push your way through the crowd to get a front seat, if you will. So I would absolutely say that you saw the entire thing play out.
Edit. I can heal him, but I have to touch him. Dane, can you?
Eddard just gives a slight nod. I got your back.
So Dane looks up at Tord from like his knees on this muddy ground where he sort of slumped about the same time that Sir John hit the ground. And there's still that little glimmer of golden light at the tip of Dane's fingers from where he had healed Sir John during the fight. I already tried.
We can't just sit here.
So Dane will scramble on all fours between people's legs out into the mud with complete disregard for the finery that he was wearing for this, sort of being the squire of Sir John for this duel. And we'll come to sort of like sliding, skidding halt next to Sir John. It's gonna be okay.
So John is in shock right now. I'm lying on the ground. My eyes are sort of obscure or bothered by the rain. Keeps dropping in my eyes, and I can't really like do anything. So I'm very coming to grips with what's happening. But I've seen my father standing over the corpse of Sir Volchester because I saw the sword go through Sir Volchester's chest. And I think as I'm being helped by my squire, I just have this overwhelming feeling of shame. And it feels like the sword in my hand is just as heavy as anything has ever been. And I can't stop trying to blink and like find my dad in all this, standing over this.
You have to stand up.
So my thoughts kind of clear for a moment. I look at my squire, and I just Dane. Oh, I should have died. Then I start to work my way up to my feet.
Not far from you, your father is also looking at the sword in his hand. This is a look of almost confusion, of almost like he's confused or not understanding where the blade even came from. He drops the sword into the mud beside the body that it fell. But the expression on his face doesn't change. The gaze of his eyes are not falling on the sword. They're falling on his hand. He furrows his brow, an expression I'm sure you've seen frequently, John. I don't know. I don't know what happened. He kind of takes a half step and falls to his knees in the mud.
Sir John sees this happening, and he's leaning heavily on Dane. I am, and I kind of, shoulder myself off of Dane, and I start to stumble forward, and I'm really limping. It's not a pretty walk over there, but I get down and I help my father to stand up. At the same time that I'm sort of wavering on my feet.
You help him back to his feet and kind of look across at his face, and you can see on the other side is your mother, who is likewise trying to help him to stand. She is still dressed in her normal clothing that you would find her in the evenings, not quite her sleeping attire, but she was definitely ready for the quiet time of the night and seems to give no cares to the driving rain and the mud and the blood. She looks at you with a serious, kind of stern expression. We need to get him inside, Jonathan. Right now.
I start to move forward, but I'm really stumbling, and I have to sort of reach out for Dane to come help me as I'm helping my father.
As Eddard sees all this happening, he makes his way out of the crowd towards Sir John and Nicholas. He's gonna try and give them a hand.
The crowd is murmuring. The whispers are already starting. Go ahead, Eli.
What sort of things are they whispering?
Yeah, can I pick it up as I walk through?
Yeah, absolutely. It's things of whether or not that was legal, whether or not that was acceptable. What's going to happen now that this has transpired?
So yeah, as I walk up, I'd relay that to Sir John, and just we need to get going.
So Dane, as Eddard gets closer, Dane is going to put his arm out for Eddard and slide Eddard into where he was, so that Sir John is leaning onto Eddard rather than Dane. Get him inside. Leave the crowd to Tordnai for a second.
Yeah, Eddard helps John. Come on, let's go.
And I'm gonna go back over to the body of the other knight and call out for Tord or wave him over if I can see him.
Yeah, he's probably a good head taller than almost anybody else around him.
He's also the only green person.
He's kind of a gray color, but
right. So I Tord.
Over the murmur of the crowd, I'm sure I only really see your hand waving me over. So I'll hop the fence, I'm sure, with a plop into the mud, kind of coating some of the people that were standing right close to the fence in a nice wave. Walking over. Dane, I don't like the way they're looking at me.
They're looking at all of us, but especially the Baron and Sir John. Their hatred for you is ancient. Their fear for Sir John is very fresh. But we need to get this body out of here.
All right.
Tonight.
Lead the way. And I'm gonna fireman carry this dead body.
Ari, have you gotten back also? Like, are you at this part yet?
Yeah, I think as soon as you look around to see if where she is, she's there.
So I shoot you that look, like maybe we've had it a couple of times where it's the like, I need to talk to you look, and kind of like nod with my head to maybe not cross into the ring, but to follow us as we carry this, as Tord carries and I just walk this body out of here.
Absolutely. She would get your message and follow.
So being that he is an actual knight, and I'm assuming that the estate here of the Baron of Kerwal probably has an infirmary or at least a sick room to it, with the help of maybe one of the servants, we can get directed to there to go lay out the body of this knight. And then
Absolutely.
whenever it's good, I'd like to have a little chat with those two in that room.
Yeah, so Eddard and the Lightenors, sounds like a band, have kind of made themselves scarce, moved back towards the noble quarters within the keep. And the other three of you, with the body of the Blackboar Knight, have made your way down kind of more into the bowels of the castle, where, you know, the kind of business that deals with this kind of thing, death and the ugly parts of life, kind of gets sequestered a bit. So you've made your way down there with help of a servant to direct you. And once you have been shown this room, the servant has left. There's no lock on this room at all. So the three of you are left alone.
What are we going to do?
Well, that's a fairly broad question.
Yeah. Specifically about what happened. It's not legal. It's not right. It's not how the code goes.
Right.
So,
well,
you know, in a duel, if Sir John had won, then that's one thing, but what just happened was the murder of an appointed official. And I don't think that's going to sit very well.
I don't quite know exactly how all your titles and stuff go, but wasn't it the Baron himself? Like, isn't he not the man above this man? So, like, how would that work?
Like Dane kind of scratches his head because this is not something you find in storybooks. This isn't something that, you know, he would have gotten from shining shoes when he was with his dad in a town. And I don't know, but I know it's not how it's supposed to go. I know that Worcester was in charge because someone put him in charge.
Well, they put him in charge because the Baron was out of commission or something. So now that the Baron is back, then the Baron would be in charge, and then therefore, your guys' ways are so confusing. I don't know, but wouldn't it be
Dane just shakes his head no.
This is a question we should be asking the Baron himself.
He's got a lot going on right this second, don't you think?
Aye.
Sir John was supposed to ride back in here on a sunny day. There were supposed to be all these people that remembered him standing there and cheering for him. He was supposed to come back and save his father. And then there was supposed to be this fireside chat where these two pillars of Lightenor sat there and they talked to each other about who was going to take the mantle and how that was going to work. And instead, we got a mud-covered...
Well, I think you said it best yourself. This isn't a story. This is real.
That means real people die. That means that Sir John and his family are in trouble. Big trouble.
Somehow I feel like us riding in here hasn't solved any of that trouble.
I don't know that us riding anywhere solved any trouble ever.
Then perhaps it's best we ride out of here.
You know, when they said that we were going to be the sword of Vykaril, I didn't expect it to be an executioner's sword.
Dane?
Now, we don't know that's what it is. There's always strife before there's the good stuff. But we also must remember that... And then she looks at between Dane and Tord before she says this a little bit. But that other night on the road, the ones that... the spies... We have to inform the Baron. We have not had a chance yet. There is more trouble than just this.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but all swords are executioner's swords. And I don't think us sitting around with an executed body is going to do us any good either. We brought him down here. We need to go find Sir John and Eddard and figure out our next move.
You're right, Tord. Go on ahead. I'm going to get Ari to help me dress the body. I mean, he's a knight after all. He deserves to be laid out with some ceremony.
I think he's got men for that, or at least those loyal to him, but don't tally long. And I will... I've been kind of like peering out the door already, so I will kind of snake out.
I think as soon as Tord leaves, Ari rounds on Dane. Is like, "What do you mean? I'm not going to dress him."
No. How familiar are you with poisons, Ari?
She kind of hesitates and stands a little more straight. I've seen their work. What are you asking, Dane?
If it turned out that Volchester was in league or responsible for the poisoning of Sir John's father, then everything that happened tonight doesn't matter. It's okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
And sometimes it seems that you have to do the wrong things to get the right outcome. So even if, and he kind of points at the body, he wasn't directly involved with it, were the poison to be found in his room,
I know what you're saying. He needs to look at fault here. But
I don't care if he looks at fault, but Sir John can't look at fault.
the discovery cannot come from us. No one would believe it. It's got to be someone from inside that finds it.
I can make that happen. I can make him look guilty. But you have to make sure that no one else knows. It's not something Sir John would want.
At this, Ari is going to reach out and she touches your shoulders and she's looking directly at you. You have my word. This goes no further. It's just you and me.
So before we leave, if you can help me find something that would look like the right poison, I'll handle the rest of it.
All right.
It's not easy. Those stories, they had a lot of it wrong.
I think at this, Ari starts going into her her pouch, and she pulls out a glass vial that she has. And she's got a few ingredients from the things that she uses. So she takes some bat fur and some pitch and some coal, and she mixes it together. And you can notice that her hand is, you didn't notice it maybe before, but there's a bandage wrapped around her hand. She kind of undoes it and reopens the wound and mixes it together with the pitch and the fur. And she makes this kind of paste that she then puts inside the vial. And she'll hand it back to you. This has no... If anyone who knows anything, they'll see right through this. But I think for our purposes, it looks like it would be. It will not last. And she kind of shrugs and passes it to you.
You're muted on that last bit, Steve.
So he'll take it, he'll pocket it, and
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So from that dark meeting in the lower portion of the Kerwall Castle, we head upstairs, where in other parts of the keep, There is a much nicer, nicely appointed room, much more nicely appointed room than where we just were. But the mood doesn't seem any less somber. Enters the Lightenors with Eddard helping to support the Baron. We find ourselves back in the Baron's bedchambers. John, your mother is instructing you and Eddard both. Here, near the fire. Quickly.
Eddard will kind of look around to see if there are any like stools or chairs and put them in position to the fire for Sir John and his father to sit in. And just for the sake of mechanics, will this be kind of like a short rest? Because I have something to use.
That's fine.
Okay, so as Sir John and his father are sitting, Eddard is kind of peeling back the layers of Sir John's armor, if he would allow, to dress the wounds, and all the while he is humming like kind of a somber tale. Anybody from Warrington would know it as a folk tale from Warrington, using Song of Rest just to give you an extra 1d6 to your hit die.
Cool. Yeah, so Sir John helps his father to sit down and get comfortable, and then Sir John sort of collapses onto a stool, which is like a dressing stool, and so he's working out of his chainmail as well. It's definitely a two-person job, so it's pretty normal that he's got somebody helping him. But then he really starts to feel it, and he's like, "Oh, that was an awful duel. A disgrace to all of House Lycanor."
Well, what's done is done. Best not to linger on it. There are more pressing matters.
Indeed. It will take some days for the news to reach the duchy, I'm sure, but we must make preparations of some kind. There is much to determine.
Your mother has been busying herself at the door with the servants who have come to try to help. She's turning them away for the moment, but you can hear her instructing them, draw a warm bath and bring broth and mulled wine. Hurry. She kind of shuffles gracefully back across the room towards where the two of you are standing. She says, quickly, we need to get his nightgown off. He needs to dry out.
Yeah, Eddard would start with them. Is he like injured in any way? Or he's just kind of fatigued? I mean, from the whole situation that was going on before.
Yeah, it's more just like a complete lack of energy, and he's also just not catatonic, but almost. He just seems to be out of it.
Yeah, probably in like a state of shock.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Well, yeah, Eddard would help to get his gown off and get him prepped for a bath.
Eddard, you can see where this wound that must have been afflicting the Baron was. And though it has healed over, you can see traces of almost like black veining kind of reaching out away from it, but it looks like it's withdrawing, but it's still present.
This is the first time we've seen the wound, I think.
It is the first time that you have seen it.
Right. Does it look like he was punctured by like a sword or anything like that, like a blade?
If it's a blade, it's more like a stiletto dagger.
Like a dagger.
Very narrow, but deep.
I got you. John, had you had a look at your father's injury?
No, what? It looks like it's recovering.
Yes, it is withdrawing, but this almost certainly looks like the work of a dagger. And the bishop of the church had determined that it was some sort of black magic, so perhaps an enchanted dagger.
Yes, from what I understand, he was injured in a battle.
Something to keep in mind.
Yes, perhaps we should all be walking around better armed and armored.
Agreed.
Eddard, are you familiar with statecraft?
Some, yes, from my time working in Warrenton.
Do you know if we have recourse here? Is there any precedent for a duel being interrupted when the fate of a barony lies in the balance?
Let me ask you something. Do you have it on good faith that Sir Gerhard or somebody closely related to him was responsible for your father's injury?
There is a web of allies, but I cannot say how close the connection may be.
I think that to gain the favor of the people, it has to have been shown that there was at least some reason for your father to interrupt that duel.
Do we say he had some revelation? Must we manufacture proof? Do we just lie?
No more lies. Your father speaks.
Father, what were you thinking?
I don't know. I was not thinking. The sword was just there in my hand, and my hand, it as if it acted of its own accord.
Jeremy, is there any way that I could tell, maybe using like an arcana or investigation check, if there are any traces of magic left near him? I guess I have the strange suspicion that he was probably charmed.
Okay, yeah. That sounds like probably an arcana roll.
Okay. 21.
Sorry, you said 21?
Yes.
Okay. So looking him kind of in the eye, trying to judge by the manner of confusion that he seems to be exuding, your knowledge of enchantment magic, it doesn't seem like there's any of those lingering effects on him. This seems to be, just from your professional opinion, a man who's wrestling with his conscience.
I mean, he didn't look any better when we had given him the tonic, or when Sir John had given him the tonic. So, Seems I'm at a loss. Unless, Sir Nicholas, do you remember what happened when you were stabbed? And I make it very clear to say stabbed, as if to like kind of reinforce him to awaken some sort of memory.
He kind of halfway looks in your direction, Eddard, before he kind of stops. And yes, he seems almost kind of shaken out of a distant thought. Yes, I was on. You know, I don't remember. I remember the battle beginning, but nothing more. That's strange.
I think this pricks Sir John's ears up, and he says, "Father, your memory is a steel trap. How do you not remember what happened to you in this battle? You've taken more serious blows before."
Yes, yes, I have, and I should remember. As I said, I remember the field. I could tell you the lay of the land, the disbursement of the troops, but then as if a darkness, a dark cloud settled over the field and cast everything into darkness in my memory. But I don't know if that's me forgetting or if it really happened.
Certainly sounds like the work of a curse. So, John, I know magic isn't always the answer, and I don't know how open you are in your mother and your father. I may be able to peer beyond the darkness in his mind.
No more magic in me. No more magic in my mind or in my body.
Understandable.
Just done enough.
You've been through a lot.
Am I also to understand that it was... John, did you use black magic to save me?
Quick question. The noble house that my father went to go fight when he got stabbed was not House Volchester. It was...
No.
Who was it again?
Lathelbren.
Lathelbren, that's right. Okay, yeah. And they're sort of like the enemies of House Mellowayne.
Yes, they are at odds with one another, and war is pretty much on the horizon between those two houses.
Okay, gotcha. So Sir John regards his father and says, "Father, you are not ready to abdicate the throne of Corwall yet. We took whatever means necessary to save you."
I suppose what's done is done. You certainly have made no more grievous an error than I.
Well, the only thing to do is to go forward from here. And we must strike decisively, for the dangers are arrayed all around us. Is there some precedent that you know of that would save you and exonerate you for your intervention?
None that I know. Perhaps through study, I could find such a precedent, but it would take time. I don't believe it's time that we have.
Is my mom in the room?
Yeah.
I'm going to look at her and say, "It was clear Sir Volchester eyed the throne of Corwall, but did he outright declare it? Did he speak of this openly?"
Though he was crude and heavy-handed in his approach, and you speak truly, I believe that there was desire in his heart towards the throne. No, he acted in accordance with the legal approach. I might have a thought. She kind of floats out into the room with a lot of trepidation.
Please, mother, tell us.
She says, we have more than likely burned the bridge between House Lightnor and House Mellowayne.
That hits Sir John like a physical blow.
Yeah. Sir Volchester was not only named the Baron Regent of Cornwall, he was the house champion. He was their highest ranking military official aside from royalty. I do not think on the eve of war that there will be the capability of mending this bridge. Cornwall sits in a very precarious position in the country. It is a stronghold, and I believe that we will come under attack before long.
Sir John looks back at his father. Can we distinguish ourselves alone and without aid?
She kind of holds her hand up momentarily. I think perhaps it is the time to approach House Latherbrun and offer our fealty. To surrender Cornwall to them.
They just attempted to take father's life.
We aren't certain of that.
We used black magic to try and undo what they had done.
Your father cannot remember what was done, Jonathan.
It was a fight with House Lethalbrun, and he was stabbed.
Did you not yourself say that you ran into agents from Cornwall who were carrying missives of our enemies?
Mother, yes, but they could have been from House Lethalbrun.
They could have, and House Latherbrun could have had spies of their own in the amidst their numbers that they did not know of. We cannot assume in our situation, Jonathan. We are on a precipice.
Sir John turns to his father and he says, as lord of this realm, you have the final say, but if we swear fealty to House Lathalbrun, what are we to do when House Mellowayne comes to our door? And will they even accept us?
He kind of hangs his head before kind of reaching up and stroking the sides of his face in frustration. I do not know. We are a military stronghold. Lathalbrun would do well to have us. But to face House Mellowayne is no easy feat. Lathalbrun is a larger house, this is true, but they are further from Cornwall, and Mellowayne is a very strong house.
Can we strike against House Lathalbrun? Prove that we deserve to remain under the graces of House Mellowayne?
It is possible.
What might Sir Volchester have accomplished for House Mellowayne?
His jaw kind of sets, and you can see it tense at the corners. Gerhardt was a very capable soldier. I believe he was a more gifted tactician than myself. So it is possible that he could have defended Cornwall and perhaps even used it as a position to launch counterattacks from.
So that is our bar. We must outdo defense and limited forays.
I am in no state to lead men. Not yet.
Well, we have some time to decide. Surely the news will not reach the duchy until a day or two hence.
Indeed. Please, go. Rest. He kind of looks to both you and Eddard. We should discuss this on the morrow.
So John just kind of turns to leave. He regards his mom, sort of embraces her weakly, sort of numbly, 1,000-yard stare-wise. And then he starts to move toward his sword, and he kind of reaches out for it, and then he stops, and he just starts to walk for the door.
Eddard passes. He bows slightly to Sir Nicholas and to the Baroness. And as Sir John leaves the room, Eddard sees him eye his blade, and they just keep walking. And Eddard picks his blade up for him and follows behind him.
So, an indeterminate amount of time passes. The five of you are able to reconvene in a common space and are able to change out of your wet clothes, relax a little, get something to eat, to drink, though it is better than trail rations. It's probably not the best that the castle has to offer in these moments. So, when the five of you reconvene, what is that situation like? What's the conversation?
Is it just me, or does this rain follow us everywhere we go?
Yeah.
So there's like a common hall that's got rooms around it that everyone is staying in the castle. And it's not large particularly, but it's enough for like a table and a fireplace and that sort of thing. And so John is over by the fire because he's cold and feeling weak and all that. And he's kind of got like a blanket wrapped, or a fur wrapped around him, sitting on the couch, just kind of looking. And he says, "Yes, and it doesn't seem like the weather is going to break anytime soon."
Wow. Can't do much to change the weather.
All right, I guess there's no sense beating around the bush. This is a shit show, and we're in the middle of it.
You know, House Lathelbrun likely stabbed my father and saddled him with this curse. My mother suggested that we swear allegiance to them, since House Melowain will surely abandon us.
That's the place of nobles. You play the pawn of the person bigger than you. I know this, and I'm a soldier. They do the same to us. Sometimes, as a pawn, you just have to move forward.
House Lathelburn tried to kill my father.
And he lived. We took out someone that would probably be a pain in the ass to them. I'd say that looks pretty good at the very least.
If we don't do something, then Mellowayne and Lathelburn both come here. And your father dies anyway. So do we. So do you. So do those people out there.
Which is the lesser evil?
For doing good, we sure deal in a lot of lesser evils.
Agreed, but we're in no position to turn down allies at the moment.
Might be kind of nice to have someone appreciate what we do.
Eddard, do you recall the words of the White Witch about the sword of Camagel?
I don't know, do I?
Well,
It's been so long.
so out of
All
character,
the check notes.
I'm
I would
thinking
say so.
about the first line, the steel of a conquered enemy turned ally.
Ah,
I just don't think Sir John would be the one to think of that line.
okay. Yeah, Eddard has a revelation. Oh, yes. Yes. Starting with the steel of a conquered ally. Or conquered enemy turned ally.
Yes. Right now, presumably, we have two enemies, House Mellowayne and House Lathelburn, neither one of which we can conquer.
I hate to be a wet blanket on this conversation, but I think that was a little bit more esoteric than the small squabbles of some neighboring houses. That one stuck out to me. You wouldn't understand. You're not Angorian. I am. The conquered enemy. Turned ally. That's my people.
Oh. Well, there's no way we could make it to your homeland and back before either House Lathelburn or House Mellowayne intervenes. Is there?
Actually, Sir John, if this keep is anything like the keep in Warrenton, there's sure to be a teleportation glyph below.
I'm not sure. I roamed this castle in my boyhood and I never saw such a thing.
Yeah, you guys would know that the closest one is in Oxfeld, where you arrived.
House Mellowayne's seat.
Yes.
Only the big guys.
Yeah.
It's no easy task to get to something like that, especially in the eve of such dire events.
Don't necessarily know that one puzzle piece of a whole riddle is really going to solve this particular conflict.
My thought was to frame Sir Gerhardt somehow, but I can think of no way to do so in a way that's plausible.
Well, hold on, Dane, hold on. Sir John, that seems so below you. Poisoning, framing. I'm sorry, Dane, I interrupted you.
Tord, I made a deal with a witch and took a cursed plant to counter-curse my father. You think lies are beneath me now?
I do.
See, listen, little boy, you're damn straight we do. We didn't lie to the witch. We took necessary aid. It's already been established we have very few allies.
You didn't use dark magic, she did.
See, exactly.
And if it's a cure for a curse, is it really dark magic?
That sounds like a good use to me.
But does this help us or does it harm us? Now my
Ah,
father has intervened in a duel, thrown us into disgrace, and he doesn't remember doing it.
and you'd rather he be dead on the bed? Take your
Perhaps,
lumps.
perhaps it would be best if he and I were both dead.
No.
All right, that's enough.
Is that what you want? Is that what it takes? Is that the ultimate running away from responsibility? Death? Since we've been here, all it's been is you don't want it. You're not ready. How many more things do you have to do before you see the same thing we do?
Sir John's very quiet.
Lying, lying may be beneath you. And framing him may be beneath you. But I'm just a commoner's kid. I can do anything. I can do things that lords and ladies can't. And I think I have an idea.
What's your idea, Dane?
I think I can convince most of the people here that if not House Mallowain, at least the other night was in league with dark magic. And that he used it through agents to weaken your father for an attempt at the throne because he was the likely choice. He would be the one that was going to be placed here. He would know that.
And how would you do this?
I've got certain abilities now. You've all seen them. Most of them.
The gifts of the Umberwood.
I think a mix from the lady who gave me the sword and from my mother's heritage. My mother was a witch, Sir John. I've always known it. I've never wanted to say it, but she was. It didn't make her a bad person. It's just in the same way that every sword's an executioner's sword. Every sword can be used to slice a loaf of bread for your neighbor. But if I do it, it doesn't sully you. You don't have to. You still get to be the hero.
Don't be ridiculous, Dane. You're my squire. Of course it would sully my name. But poisoning, framing Sir Volchester for this deed, there is merit in it. How would you do this? A note? What?
No. A note's too obvious. It's too easily faked. But we do have a letter talking about the forces here. And we do have a captive of a less than reputable Road Knight.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Uh-huh.
Dane, he's dead. It,
Huh.
sorry.
He's dead.
S-
It,
No, I feel bad,
It-
but
hey, I'm sure there was a reason.
there was a real good reason. Ari,
It wouldn't
right?
have happened to a nicer person. It's he got what was coming to him. And besides, if he's dead, he can't tell anyone that we're lying.
Exactly.
So if there's some evidence that's left in Volchester's room, and some people in the keep see some dark forces and magic around it, and Sir Tord happens to catch this devious agent and execute him carrying this letter. As long as we're not the ones that see it happen, right? As long as it involves someone else in the castle. And on top of it, if we make it so that Sir Owen realized what was going on, and that's why he was killed. I'm just saying, I've learned one thing about stories recently. It's all about who tells them. And we've got Eddard.
At that moment, I like to think that there's like him standing next to the fire, and there's just kind of a shot where he kind of turns and looks over his shoulder, and his entire face is just shrouded in shadow.
Like
Yes.
natural shadow?
Yeah, like natural shadow. It's just,
Okay.
he kind of looks over his shoulder. He says, I think that everyone in this group can attest that words often cut deeper than steel. And there is such a time to use a lie. That's all I have to say.
Now's that time. Well, if you're not going to say anything, then maybe it's time that we're all men of action and women. And we just do something about this problem.
What evidence do we have? Evidence that we can plant. We have the note, certainly.
We have the note. I can duplicate and alter parts of it. We have the locked room of a deceased man that if no one sees us enter, we can place a facsimile of a poison in there. a couple of cryptic texts written in Vykarilian. I speak it. I can write it.
If you can write it, I can plant it.
And then a big show. A sphere of darkness and evil haunting the hallways. Servants disturbed by it. Strange noises. The tortured, possessed soul of a once true knight screaming out against its untimely death. Mission unaccomplished.
I've seen his face. I can certainly disguise myself as him. That's one route.
Then we get out of here. So,
Fabricate the notes. Prepare the evidence. There's almost like a shift in Eddard's personality where he goes from like it's like stone cold. He's just very surgical and methodical about all this as he approaches everybody. You get everything together, and I will see to it that it makes it to Sir Gerhard Volchester's room. Sir John, do you remember where he was staying?
Yeah. It's not the Baron's room, but I would know.
Yeah, he would know where it is.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I can have servants take you there.
no.
I think it's best that I go alone.
Yes, very well.
And then later, once it's all planted, I'll arrange for quite the show to be discovered. And then it's just a matter of Sir John and your father speaking with the Lathbrins?
We shall see. Let us accomplish this task first and see what comes of it.
And with that, I think that's where we're going to take our break. So 5-10 minutes, refill your drinks, go to the bathroom, kiss your spouse, smoke them if you got them, etc., etc. Just sit right back and hang out. We'll be back. Thank you very much for tuning in so far, and stick around.
Should we stay or should we go now? Should we stay or should we go?
Go, 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 go.
The question was raised, are we good guys?
Mhm.
No.
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
I never knew.
Well, you were never good.
We're not the baddest guys.
We're not the worst guys.
Right. We've definitely met people worse than us.
I
so
maybe
we-
did.
Or so we think.
Yeah.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Right.
So good. So good.
Everything's good. We just went from an Arthurian fairy tale to a very awkward episode of Mission Impossible / Murder Possible. I don't.
TV hasn't even been invented yet, Dane.
For those of us outside of Chicago, it has.
Wait, what? No way!
All I've got is a shitty L train and internet.
The train should be rolling through there any day now.
The TV train. Can't wait for the TV train. Is that like the Wienermobile?
Sorta. Same company.
Amazing.
It's a versatile company.
Diversify their portfolio.
We've really cornered the market on Wienermobiles and TV trains.
Jeez.
Stock prices are up.
Who'd have known? Everybody wanted those things.
It's a shockingly high demand in the Chicago area.
Specifically.
We don't have nice things here. They're not allowed.
Yeah, but if it's like the Wienermobile, like in Chicago, doesn't it have to have like the pickle, like stab to it? It's not a Chicago style hot dog where they have like the pickle and like the poppy seed bun or something.
They have to do a lot of extra decorations when it comes to Chicago, or else they end up, like getting the car graffitied.
See, I've been to O'Hare. I can testify this. Nothing is good in Chicago.
Yeah, you've seen all of it, the whole city.
So I stayed there. I stayed in the small sequestered country of O'Hare.
Did you know a train once jumped the tracks and flew up the escalator at O'Hare?
I hope. I hope.
This happened a few years
Wow.
ago at like 3 or 4 in the morning. The conductor fell asleep and the train goes right up to like the end of the platform for the Blue Line train is an escalator that goes up into O'Hare. And this train conductor just fell asleep and the train kept going and hopped right over the tracks and went like plowed up this escalator. Fortunately, there was nobody there. Like nobody was killed. There were plenty of people on the train who were jarred by the impact and everything. But yeah,
I'm glad somebody got some sleep in O'Hare.
fast times on the CTA.
Oh dear.
That's crazy.
Sorry, I
Okay.
have some pent up resentment for the airport.
PTSD.
No, I couldn't tell.
All right. So I think we have everybody back. Yep. Yep. Okay. So you guys ready to hop back in to this very nice, relaxing break from everyday life?
No stress here.
Zero. It's all Yanni and incense. All right. Don't shake your head at me, Eli. All right.
You bringing Yanni into this?
Yanni always brings himself in. Refers to himself in the third person.
What a jerk, that guy.
Okay. So we have watched our heroes, ? Hash out this plan. And sometime later, perhaps the next night, I think there's a moment where you're gathered for a meal, and the Baroness is there, but the Baron is not. He's distinctly absent. And I think up to this point, everybody's kind of finishing their meal. It's, it was a banquet that had been prepared for Sir John's return. And the food needs to be used before it goes bad. So you guys are eating things like roasted pheasant and, some very, very expensive, wines and cheeses. So I think it's probably a practice in opposites. The food that's being served and the atmosphere are at odds with each other because it's a very quiet, sullen meal. So as you're kind of finishing this next course, if you will, the Baroness is kind of quietly sitting beside this empty chair of her husband's, just kind of quietly finishing her meal. So she kind of dabs at her mouth, the napkin, and puts it down. What are we going to do, Jonathan?
Mother, it's possible that House Lethalbrun will take us in. It's possible they won't.
We know them to be a noble house. In the past, they have behaved as such. They have conducted themselves in the proper ways. I am not certain that they were not behind the attack on your father, but I don't know what to do. Forgive me.
Sir John kind of looks over at Eddard meaningfully.
Eddard's plate is uncharacteristically full, as is his glass of wine. He hasn't eaten much. He catches your glance.
I kind of want to, so like we're here eating dinner trying to get this done, but it's not a good place to talk out loud about our plans.
Certainly not.
I don't know quite how I want to approach this. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think while you and your mother are talking about Lethalbrun, Ari is kind of looking back and forth between the two of you, and just like, finally, she just kind of puts down the hunk of cheese that she was kind of nibbling on. I'm a wee bit confused. Like, why were your families fighting in the first place? Like, what started this?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna vamp. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'd rather it come from one of you guys.
I mean, are you comfortable with us just making something up?
Oh, no.
Okay.
There is a story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she would. I think she would probably look at Ari. I think this is probably one of the first few words that she's heard you speak, Ari. And she seems a little surprised at the, I guess, the directness. Before she then kind of looks at John for a moment to see if, like, it's if it's okay to speak about this in front of this elf.
So John, waves permission.
She says, there was a knight who supposedly, and she kind of lowers her voice, is in possession of knowledge, evidence that the Queen served time in Baldock prison as an assassin before she was queen, obviously. She was taken into custody by some of House Melowain's agents and was en route to be heard by the Justiciars in Oxfeld. House Lathelbrin learned of this, and they ambushed the caravan that was moving the prisoner to free her. So what is at stake is more than simply House Melowain or House Lathelbrin claiming Curwall. We are talking about the very foundation of our monarchy. If this proves to be true, the Queen cannot remain on the throne, as you can understand. If that happens, there would be a scramble for her throne. And houses are already beginning to jockey for that position.
So if that is all the case here, then I'm still very confused. So is the Melowains trying to get the Queen off of the throne, or are they wanting her to stay there? And the Lathelbrans? Like,
I believe House Melowain wants the truth to be revealed, but not without its benefits. The Duchess of Melowain is very well positioned for an ascension.
so she wants to take over the throne, and the Lathelbrans are trying to keep it the same way.
It's not quite that simple, but yes, in essence, I believe that is the long and short of it.
All right, then. She looks at Sir John. So what's the problem then? Like,
The
We just-
problem?
aye, why don't we help them then and keep the Queen on the throne? Like, why would they not want your help?
Well, there are personal considerations, but Lathelbrin cares more about the Queen than Melowain, that is certain.
The Queen is one of the ones with, like, she's a shield bearer, right?
Yes, so the Queen actually currently holds two shields, because one shield is reserved for the reigning monarch and one is reserved for the reigning monarch's spouse's family. Even though they are technically one house together as the monarchy, they hold two shields at all the time. But the Queen is currently not married, so she currently holds the other one kind of in, I don't know what the term would be, but basically kind of in stasis.
Mm-hmm.
In reserve or something. So Sir John says, all right, so we swear allegiance to House Lathelbrin. What happens if they say no? What happens if the queen really was an assassin and does not deserve to sit upon the throne?
Jonathan, there's a lot about the duty of being a noble, of holding position, such as your father and I, that is not quite as cut and dry as things might be in the realm of being a knight. Sometimes even someone that may not do everything the way you think it should be done makes a good leader. Sometimes someone who meets all of the requirements you think a leader should have makes for a terrible ruler. Do you understand my meaning?
I do, Mother, and forgive me, but I prefer the field of battle.
You are better suited for it.
And Sir John kind of touches the pommel of his sword, which he's wearing tonight, but it's really just more like he's carrying it and he's kind of propped it up against his chair. And so he's kind of like holding it down by the seat. And lately, ever since he first touched this sword yesterday, 2 days ago, however long it was, he keeps getting these like moments of calm mentally where the storm of like possibilities and dangers all around them kind of quiets down for a second, and it seems like things are clearer in his head. And he says, "But it is necessary to act always. Standing still is bound to get one trampled in a stampede such as this."
This is delicate. Regardless of how this plays out, our trouble will not be solved the moment that this next piece falls into place. Whether it is with House Mellowing or House Lathelbrin, we will be on shaky ground for some time. If House Lathelbrin is to take us seriously, I fear that they should meet with one from our family directly. That the message should come from us.
And what's more, I think they should need some sort of example of our loyalty.
Yes, that would be wise.
Do we have tribute we can pay? Or must we come up with deeds?
No, there is enough in the treasury. I believe that we can spare what would be an appropriate gift.
And speaking of the treasury, or of the holdings of House Lytenor, and Sir John looks at all of his friends, is there provision enough in the armory to spare an outfitting for we who would do tasks such as this? My cat just destroyed my entire setup. Hold on.
The table just crashes. Dishes everywhere. She kind of looks over the entirety of the table and she nods. Yes, I think it would do well for some proper attire to be doled out, as well as payment for the great deeds that you have done in helping my son and my husband and myself through these difficult times.
Mother, payment? They are my companions. I can finance anything they need.
Very well. But yes, by all means, make yourselves ready for this journey. Get what you need from our stores.
So, so John looks at everyone else and he says, well, there is still darkness and uncertainty before us, but at the very least, we shall be well equipped for it. We will pay a visit to the armory in the morning.
Very well. She says, if you will excuse me, I should go tend to your father. And she will leave the five of you kind of sitting around the table.
Well, what's next?
Eddard pulls back from his seat, kind of scraping the wooden chairs against the cobblestone on the ground. He stands up. Dane? Is everything ready?
I think so.
I'll be in the chamber, our chamber, getting ready. Eddard nods, and he leaves the room.
Okay. So as that scene draws to a close, there is a question in the chat from the players that I want to address. That's the word I'm looking for. What is the capital of the Duchy of Lathabrin? So House Lathabrin actually operates as the Shield House of Galalon. Galalon is like the crypt where past monarchs and heroes and people of note are laid to rest. And it lies beneath the city of Vykaril, which is the old capital of the kingdom. The new capital of the kingdom is a different city named Malric. So they reside in Vykaril, but they are not a shield house of Vykaril because technically the capitals are both. Those are the two monarchs' shields. Are the new capital and the old capital. So they're kind of they're not like a landed house, so to speak, but they're a very powerful house. Okay. So, Eddard, if you would, go ahead and give me. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. There was multiple people that were kind of involved in this plan, pulling this off. So we're going to do this as a skill challenge. So I am going to need rolls from you guys and gal. And I'm going to look for 5 successes before 3 failures. If you succeed at a particular skill, you have to use a different one on a future check, individually, not collectively. That makes sense to everybody? Cool.
Yeah.
Is this to prepare, or is this to pull out the whole
thing?
whole thing?
Prepare,
Okay, cool.
Prepare and complete.
Gotcha.
So for what it's worth, the last part I'm going to do to draw attention to it is a new spell that Dane has that is slightly over the top. If you guys are familiar with it, it is called, what is it, Hagar's Hunger? What it's called? Sorry. There's something horrible like that. Hunger of Hadar. Yeah, so it's going to create a 20-foot sphere of unbroachable darkness that has demonic and otherworldly whispers constantly happening, the sound of blood being drank and bubbling ooze. Anyone who walks into it is immediately blinded, and it gives off enough radiant cold that it, if you were to step into it, it will do 2d6 cold damage and 2d6 acid damage to you. So it's going to like jack up the floor. It's going to, so that's like the last part of where I said I knew I could sort of make it look black magic-y. So that part. Now for skill rolls. All right.
So, what was the first part of this kind of plan being enacted? Anybody have any thoughts of how to start us off?
Maybe Sir John needs to persuade some of the people around the house to be in the right place at the right time to not see what is going on here.
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool. So I have persuasion, and I would like to roll that.
Yes, please.
And I got a 17.
Excellent. That is 1 success.
Nice.
I think likewise, Dane would have spent a lot of his time throughout the day talking to amongst the servants while polishing boots and armor about what an odd feeling he got when he was involved carrying this body off the battlefield, and how it had this preternatural chill to it that in his time serving a knight, he's seen dead bodies, but nothing that was this cold and just, he like, shudder a lot. So yeah, let's get that off. Good bluff.
Was that deception?
Yeah. Ooh, natural 20.
Oh, okay. That's
So it's going to be a 26 for me.
Yeah, and that 20 will count as 2 successes. So that puts you guys at 3. Well on your way. Anybody else?
I think it goes without saying that Eddard is probably going to be using stealth to get in and out of the room to plant the evidence.
That makes good sense. Are you using your new thing that we talked about, the shadow magic?
No, I don't have anybody
Okay.
docked up, so I could use invisibility though, if that would make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, with invisibility, certainly. So yeah, I'll let you. You can roll with advantage.
All right. $17 and a 19. With my stealth, that's 27.
That is another success. That's 4, with 0 failures so far.
So maybe while Dane is doing his, talking to the locals and spreading out that word. Ari is listening and watching and trying to read the crowd to make sure whether they're buying the story so far that's being told. So insight. Just gonna try. That's not a very good roll, but it is a total of 15.
That is what I was looking for. So, without any failures at all, you guys breeze through this.
You're welcome, Baron. We carried.
Baron's like, I'm studying my character sheet. I am too busy at the moment to.
You don't want the paladin to sneak.
Okay. So we get this kind of this montage of all of these different moments kind of playing out and orchestrated in such a way that this kind of all goes off without a hitch. You get this evidence planted. No one seems to be the wiser. The rumors of ill tidings at the keep, of an unrestful spirit, kind of begin to spread throughout the help in the castle. So soon, it's the only thing that can be spoken of. Every corner, every bit of conversation that is happening somewhere, it sounds like that's always in the conversation somewhere. That Sir Volchester had unfinished business here on the mortal realm and was still wandering the halls of Castle Kerwall. So from here, what are you guys doing?
Well, first order of business is to go shopping.
I think to perhaps nudge things to an investigation into Sir Volchester's belongings and where he was staying. I think I'd like to purposely have a conversation. Dane would like to purposely have a conversation with one or two of maybe the scullery boys, like the pot scrubbing boys, right outside of the office of the bishop. And kind of reiterating that story of the body, and then how that I've just this nightmare ever since I shouldn't have touched the body, but I'm asleep. I'm asleep in my bed, and I hear this strange language, and I've never heard these words, but they sound old, and they chill me to my bone, and I wake up and I'm covered in sweat, and standing there is Sir Volchester. He's angry. He tells me that Sir John's dad stopped him from something about power, something about spirit power, not just like the power of sitting on a throne, or but that he was getting, and I'll sort of repeat, or I'll say in Vykarilian, in broken, something about a cursed dagger and a need for power, and the dark ways will be done. And I'll ask the boys if have you ever heard that language? I've traveled a lot now with Sir John, and I've never heard anyone speak it before. And I'll make sure I say that, like, those words specifically loud enough for this bishop to hear inside the room. And every time he says it, every time I try to close my eyes just for a moment, he's there. Do you guys believe in ghosts? Do you think that maybe Sir Volchester?
Boy. The voice of the
like, snap to attention.
Yeah. The voice of the bishop kind of rattles the other two, and they scatter. This glowering, kind of pinched face. This man that you've seen before, the Bishop of Curwall, Byron, looks at you with apprehension, fear, perhaps even. Almost like it's kind of fear, but wrangled under control. What is this nonsense? You're speaking of ghosts.
Oh, you're from the church. You can make it go away. Well, you are the church, right? Here in Curwall. You can
Get in here, boy.
It go away.
Get in here.
All right.
He kind of grabs you and pulls you inside and kind of shuts the door. What are you playing at, boy? I saw you in the Baron's chambers. You cast black magic upon him yourself. I saw it with my own eyes.
I know. But
what trickery are you up to? What is this?
No trickery. I'm scared. I'm scared.
You've come to absolve yourself of your sins?
If it means that this ghost of, or spirit, or whatever of Sir Volchester will go away, I think, Bishop, do you think that black magic recognizes each other? Do you think that's why he's come to me? Do you think he's trying to corrupt me further to have me finish his unfinished deeds? Is that why he sought me out? Is that why he speaks to me in a language I don't understand?
Perhaps.
Is he trying to use me?
It is within the realm of the old ways and their teachings to...
I don't want to be a tool for the darkness. I want to help people.
He kind of straightens up.
I want to be a hero. But he comes to me and he says these words, and I'll repeat them again.
He kind of reaches out and places his hand kind of on your mouth. Shh! Do not repeat those words.
He bids me to go to his room. But I can't. What if something there's connected to him? What if that's how he draws me in? What if he makes me turn against my friends because that's what he wanted? Bishop, you have to help me. You're muted.
There is a darkness in you. I have seen it. Perhaps there is some truth to this draw.
Should I listen? Should I go?
No. No, I do not think so. It would be unwise. They could use you as a vessel. You swear that you have heard this from the house champion, Sir Gerhard Volchester. You would attest to this.
I swear on my life I have heard him speak to me.
He raises his hand and hangs it in front of you with this enormous, decadent ring, a symbol of his station as a bishop. He offers it to you to kiss.
I'm sorry. I grew up on a farm. And I take his hand. What?
It's the ring of Kerwal. The bishop will pardon you. I will absolve you of your sins that you
Sir,
have confessed.
my soul may be forfeit, but someone like yourself, as powerful as yourself, must do something. Because if not me, he will find someone else. He will tear the walls of Kerwal down from the inside, from the shadows.
There will
There's
be...
something that he seeks.
Son. He kind of places his hand on your shoulder. There will be an inquiry.
There is malevolence in him.
It will be excommunicated. I will see to it myself. But first, if we are to sully the name of one such as Sir Volchester, I must be certain. You swear to me?
I swear to you that Sir Volchester has spoken to me. And I'll kiss his ring.
He kind of eyes you with this one arched eyebrow. And then when you kiss, he withdraws his hand. It is good that you came to me.
I only told the boys up front because I needed you to hear. You understand?
Yes, of course. Tell no one else.
No.
We do not want to incite panic.
I've not even told Sir John.
There have been rumors already abounding in the castle. I will get to the bottom of this. He starts opening drawers and preparing things like holy water and things, the equipment of a cleric.
Sir, Bishop, have you known the Baron of Kerwal long?
Yes, since he was a boy.
Is
Why
he
do
a
you
good
ask?
man?
Sir Nicholas Lightenor, yes. He is a very good man. Why?
Just?
Yes.
And sensible?
Even, fair-handed, if not tough to some.
Do you think that the darkness that was here tried to kill him because he is a just man like yourself? Is that the darkness striking out the land?
I believe that this land was already cast into darkness. We are attempting to spread the light.
It's in their name. Light.
Indeed. Indeed it is.
I feel bad for Sir Volchester. I don't think that he meant to be evil. I think the darkness just got into him like it did me. And he didn't know to come to talk to someone like you. Maybe it took root. And it grew. But you can make it better. Right?
He kind of searches your face for a long time. Perhaps I will do what I can. You should go.
I have armor to polish.
He kind of waves.
All right, I go.
Dismissively. Okay. So, if everyone is comfortable with it, I think I'm going to do a little bit of a jump. The following days are kind of a what would be referred to as a media frenzy now. The town of Kerwal is just completely abuzz and enamored with the downfall of the Blackboar Knight. The besmirching of Sir Volchester and by proxy family Volchester, House Volchester's name as users of black magic. His ambition for the seat of the barony outweighed the positive qualities he showed as a house champion of mellowing. And this absolutely kind of puts a stall on the happenings in Kerwal. House Mellowing is, instead of the retaliatory strike that was likely to happen, they're holding back for the time being, likely to kind of try to vet this claim before acting. So that leaves the possibility for the five of you to shop, to find the things that you want to that House Lightenor would have at its disposal to equip yourselves with, and head out onto the road. But as you're leaving Kerwal, as you're exiting the city walls, Sir John, what are the final thoughts as you depart from your home?
Oh, I think for so long, Sir John's thoughts have been tied up in a mishmash of things. He wanted to get glory. He wanted to get out of the Umberwood. He needed to get home. He needed to save his father. And now it's like there are so many thoughts bouncing around that nothing is really sticking. And he's got a sort of clarity of mind, but it's a very oppressive kind of clarity of mind. It's like he can't focus on anything. And he's got some new half-plate armor on, and he's got a warhorse under him, and these sorts of things. He's got this new sword girt at his side, and these things should be like things that he's wanted his entire life, but here we are in the worst possible circumstances for all of them, and they're going off to try and win new possibilities for his house that don't involve massive amounts of death. And none of this is really sticking for Sir John so much. He's just kind of like feeling the horse under him and watching the road ahead as they set out.
Do any of the rest of you have any parting thoughts as you leave Kerwell behind?
Not so much a thought, but Eddard had some stuff made, commissioned, some equipment. Well, not equipment, just clothing. I wanted to ask you: do you have any set house colors for House Pendrake and a sigil?
So the sigil is, I think it's a claw.
Oh yeah, we discussed this. A claw holding a gemstone.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I got you.
As far as the colors go, I don't have that chosen yet. So feel free to use whatever you'd like.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's like a royal blue and a crimson together, so a red and a blue. And he has a cloak made in the colors of House Pendrake, and also commissions a cloak pin. Just a claw holding a sapphire. And also he has cut his hair. His long hair once down his like halfway his back is now like close cropped, almost above his ears. He's changed a little bit. That's about it. He doesn't have any parting thoughts. Actually, he does. Where are we going? That's kind of the big thing. And as they're kind of walking out, he just kind of looks to the rest of the group. So what next? Suppose our business in Kerwell is done for now. But where to?
Sir John looks over at Tord and then over at Ari, and he says, "To the Duchy of Galalon, where we might find some deed to accomplish before we confront House Lethalbrun."
It's been some time since I've been to the royal seat.
Okay. So it sounds like you are headed in the direction of Vykaril, the old capital, where House Lethalbrun resides. Is that correct?
Yeah, and where, geography-wise, is that like north of us or
Northwest. I just looked at it.
I just so happen to have this spiffy map that was drawn by Eli.
Oh, yeah.
Based on an older, very poorly drawn map of my own. Where's the screen? Here we go. I don't know if the zoom's going to work. That might be the only thing. So, Oxfeld is on the left near the coast, about halfway through the kingdom, kind of west of Lake Kelmium. It's represented by kind of a little red banner with Oxfeld. And to the northwest, is Vykaril, kind of at this bend in this road. Where you guys are, Kerwell, it's not quite halfway between those two. It's closer to Oxfeld than it is Vykaril. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So there's not really, I mean, there are roads, but it's not like the road depicted here on the map are the old Divinian roads, like the imperial roads that were well laid stone and maintained for a while, and still to this day somewhat maintained. So you'd have to take lesser known paths in order to get there, but you could certainly find them.
Well, I think as Sir John is saying those words that we're headed to the Duchy of Galalon. And Ari, she kind of just gets a feeling, and she looks over at Tord, and it's almost like, I don't want to say like a shudder, but like a feeling just passes over her that this might not be a good idea. But she doesn't say anything, and she just looks back at where they're leaving and then looks forward and continues on.
Okay. So, on the road to Vykaril then? Yes? Okay. So, for the most part, travel goes uneventfully. While the roads are not nearly as well paved or maintained as the Old Dominion roads, they are certainly serviceable to cars and wagons. So, traveling by horse is not difficult at all. Each one of you was able to get a horse from House Lightenor if you so wished, so you can be mounted instead of on foot. And you've been on the road for probably 3 days or so. And there's been, other roads that have intersected and things that have kind of joined with. Vykaril is certainly not a small town. So a lot of roads start to kind of get more frequently used the closer you get to it. After that time, you hear kind of a commotion up ahead on kind of in the road. And as you kind of come around this bend in the forest, you see a man with a cart that is kind of off the side of the road just a bit, somewhat in the underbrush. And he is out of his cart, and he's having a very difficult time, it seems like, wrestling with his ox. This ox seems to be obstinate, to say the least, and he is shouting and pulling on this thing and not being able to get it to respond in the least.
Finally, something in my comfort zone. I'm going to ride over to this man. Greetings. Seems you're running amok a bit of trouble.
Man jumps as you ride up and speak. He turns and he jumps a second time when he realizes that you're an orc. Forgive me. Yes. Could you help? You look rather strong.
When he looks at me in fear, I kind of what are you looking at? Why are you afraid? I'm helping you. If I'm coming to help.
Oh, no. Forgive me, please. I didn't mean to startle. Could you help? Please.
Hopping down, turning attention away from this man and to the ox. There is a series of grunts and whistles, and I cast Speak with Animals.
Excellent.
I don't expect us to actually figure out that conversation. But
you don't want to role play a scene with an ox, Baron?
I do that enough with Ari. Thank you.
Oh, damn.
No, I speak with the ox and see what is causing it to be disgruntled.
Okay. So looking with your eyes at kind of the situation, especially while this thing is kind of explaining as best it can the situation. It is rife with fear. Doesn't want to go any further, and you can see that the other side of this yoke. So this was meant to be pulled by 2 oxen. The other side of this yoke is broken and covered with blood. And the other ox just keeps going on and on about how its, I don't know, herd mate, brother, whatever you want to call it, was like torn apart in front of him.
Looking back to the man. You were attacked?
He kind of looks kind of surprised. Well, yes.
Well, there's blood all over this. It's clear to see.
Yes, of course. Forgive me. Yeah, there was a small bridge some way back. It was a troll. It was upon us before I was even able to react. It lifted the oxen as if it were a child's toy.
Where did it go?
I don't know. I didn't see where it came from. I didn't see where it went. Truth be told, I didn't stay around very long. I whipped Penelope here into action, and we rode down the road. But now she's refusing to go any further, and I can't figure out why.
Well, she's tired. This is a 2 oxen cart, and you're having 1 oxen pull it.
Would you prefer that I have stayed and become troll food myself?
Well, at least you'd have been able to point me in the right direction.
It's down the road. This way.
Well, I came from that way.
He points to a smaller path that has joined with the road, not far back from where you are now. No, not that way. This way.
Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down.
Of course. Forgive me.
I can't bring your oxen back, but I will say you either lighten your load or treat yours a little better if you're going to get her to do anything. Now, if you excuse me, I guess I've got a troll to slay and nowhere to start looking.
Look.
You need to work on your people skills.
Well, very well then.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
Hopping back up onto my horse and riding back. Thank goodness, everyone. I have something to take out my latent frustration on. There's a troll that way. Shall we go kill it?
Lord. As you are kind of riding away from this man and speaking, calling out to your group, you see a cat emerge from the forest and kind of jaunt over to where this guy is with the cart. And at first, you think no big deal, but something about this cat catches your eye. And when you turn and give it a closer look, it's got like feathers intermittent with its fur and a beak instead of a snout. And the tail ends almost kind of more in a feathered display. It stops and kind of perches on the edge of this man's cart and just kind of looks at you.
Can I use my divine sense to see if it's a fae?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's, hold on. Let me just word for word read that.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think I can recognize if it's a fae. Just Can I just get a like either animal handling or some sort of just is this thing a natural thing?
You
Or is
don't
this
you don't think so? I mean, this is not something
I mean,
or
at a glance, this doesn't look natural. But it's just like it's the characteristics surrounding it. Like, do I view this thing as something much more?
you've seen this kind of thing before. Like Vanwa like makes appearances to you as a raven all the time.
Okay.
And you've seen other animals. You came across a black stag at one point, and it kind of had some vaguely bird-like features as well.
Do I get the idea that this thing is like beckoning me?
You don't know if it's really a beckon so much as just, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what you think the presence of.
I think Tord wants to get the hell away from it.
That's fair. So that's just something that Tord notices as he's riding back towards the group.
Quickly, troll, kill. Let's go, please.
The rest of you saw this black cat kind of at a distance after this exchange with Tord and this man on the roadside. But you did not notice anything bird-like about this cat. It looked like a normal black cat to you.
Running from bad luck, are you?
What?
You know what they say, black cats, superstition.
What does a cat have to do with it?
You don't want to cross paths with a black cat. It's bad luck. You look awfully spooked by that black cat.
I don't know if we're speaking about the same thing, mate. The thing's a creature.
Eddard kind of looks at everyone else around.
There's no time to debate this, I'm afraid. The man says there's a troll under a bridge. That way.
Then I suppose we'd best be off.
So then the plan is for everyone to head back towards this bridge. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Jeremy. One of my class features is to have 3 retainers, but I kind of left them behind earlier. Can I switch them out for different retainers since our quest is a little different?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think what I want to do then is I want to have a quartermaster come along with us and a messenger so that we can send messages back to Kerwal somewhat quickly, and then also like a scout or a hunter type to get us some food every once in a while.
Okay, absolutely. That's well within the means of who would be available at Kerwal.
Cool. Yeah, and they have horses of their own, and they're just kind of coming along with us, or they're walking alongside or whatever.
Yeah, they can keep up without any issue whatsoever.
Cool.
Okay. They definitely don't seem very keen about going looking for a troll, but they will certainly go with you. So
I think though, actually, so Sir John is a little leery about the things that his retainers do with him at this point. Some bad things have happened in the past. And I think he's going to look back at that cart and look at Tord. That creature that disturbed you? Do you think it's associated with the cart, or do you think it came of its own?
Truth be told, I don't even know want to look at it. I don't know. Can we just go, please?
Very well. And then I'm going to turn to my retainers. Just keep a healthy distance.
Okay. So you leave the man at the roadside with his ox and this cat. And you head back, kind of almost doubling back on where you came from, but the road kind of cuts in a slightly different direction, more easterly. And you make your way maybe another hour, 2 hours, before you can see this ravine that you're kind of making your way downward. And sure enough, ahead of you is a small river it's maybe 20, 30 feet across. It's not large, but it's moving fairly quick. There's a lot of rocks in this area, and there's a small bridge, stone bridge that expands spans the gap, and it's just a little bit wider than a wagon would be. It's not in the best repair, but the actual surface seems to be fairly well maintained.
Is there any outward evidence of a troll or layer of?
Not that you see, not from where you're at.
There's no gore from the dead oxen?
Yeah, there would definitely be blood. And I guess, there would be probably torn bits of tack, leather straps and buckles, maybe some pieces of what you think might be part of the yoke, kind of spread out, kind of in the center of the bridge.
I believe I can track whatever it was that attacked that man. Are you ready to actually damage things with swords rather than words, everyone?
Long overdue, I think.
You and me both.
Okay, so what is the approach?
Tord's gonna ride close, see the evidence, and try and track the direction the creature fled with its meal.
Okay. Everyone, if you could, please make perception checks. These will be at disadvantage. They are hearing based, if that makes a difference. Okay. All right. Everybody. Okay, there we go. So the rest of you hear nothing but the kind of the cascading noise that the river is making as it kind of comes through this kind of narrowed spot. The water becomes kind of rapids here under the bridge. However, Eddard, there's maybe a lull in the river, in the spot that you pass, or you just happen to turn your head a certain way. You hear a snap, like a very distinct kind of noise. And it's not like it came from the forest around you. It sounded like it came from under the bridge.
Sound like bone snapping?
It could have been.
Potentially. Wait, did everyone hear that?
Hear what?
I think your troll might be under the bridge. There's some snapping coming from under there. It was loud. Wouldn't say it was like a branch or a twig. It's much more solid than that.
Tord would look to Sir John and kind of give like the, I'll go one way, you go the other. Point with Dane to go with you, Eddard and Ari to come with me. Kind of pincer this thing.
Okay. So, as you've gotten closer, you can see that Eddard is most likely right. You can see that the kind of viscera that's smeared around does indeed kind of go off one side of the bridge and looks like it kind of is dripping down the stone facade on that side. So the plan is then to divide and kind of make your way down the embankment to underneath the bridge. Is that right?
Is it not too steep to climb down?
No, it's not too steep. It would take some careful footing. You have to turn sideways and kind of sidestep down kind of thing, or lean back as you're kind of walking. But it's certainly not anything you'd have to like get down and like slide or crawl or anything like that.
Okay. Take it that's the approach. Eddard is going to keep his distance, but he'll follow you toward.
Okay, so I am going to need stealth rolls from everybody. If you would please. Uh-oh. Okay. All right. So you divide and begin to make your way kind of down this embankment to kind of flank one of these arches beneath this bridge. And you get within 40 feet before it's very obvious that several of you are making way too much noise. Tord and Sir John, in their heavier armors and their bulkier frames, they're snapping twigs and knocking branches to the side as they move. And very soon, there's another noise from beneath the bridge. You hear this. I smell men. Elf. Orc. You hear these thudding footsteps. And let's see. The side that has Tord, Ariana Shial, and Eddard on it, you see a long, spindly, sinewy, green arm reach out of the darkness and grab the side of the bridge and start to pull this figure out from the darkness. This thing is probably 12 feet tall going on. Weighs, I don't know, maybe 400 pounds. It's very thin and lithe, but its skin is covered with these moss-covered boulder-looking like rises all over its body. There's splits and cracks in its skin. Looks almost like rock. And each of its long hands ends in these fingers that are knobby and bony, and at some point along their length, it stops being a finger and starts becoming this curved black claw. Its teeth are these broken shards of yellowed bone that kind of jut out of its gums at odd angles. And its eyes are completely black, these kind of dark reflective pools. And it steps out, kind of squinting in your direction. You are trespassers. My land.
Actually, this is a public road.
I own. Bridge mine.
Where's the deed? Can't own the bridge without the deed. That's the rules. You can either leave or we'll make you leave. I've had about enough.
Give me elf.
I'm not giving you anything. I'm telling you to leave.
I eat elf. Give me elf.
I will say this one more time. I'm going to actually use command as a spell.
Ooh, nice.
My spell DC is a 14.
Okay. Is this a wisdom
Oh, shit.
or intelligence?
I believe this is wisdom.
Probably wisdom.
Command.
Oh. What's the spell DC again?
14.
Okay. So he rolled a 14 on the die, but both of those attributes are minuses. So he failed, but barely.
I'm going to say it one more time. Leave.
I go.
You go. You go now.
He kind of turns and slinks back under the bridge. Disappears into the darkness.
Did that conversation take at least a minute?
Probably not entirely a minute, no.
Okay.
Between you sneaking forward and that conversation, total might be a minute had to have elapsed.
Okay. Would I have been able to observe the troll that entire time?
I mean, it's probably pushing a little bit of the way the rules are written, but I'm fine with it in this situation.
Okay. Because I just got this new ability, Know Your Enemy, and it lets me learn some things about targets if I pay attention to them for a minute. And so I get to learn the troll's power level and also the troll's armor class and hit points.
Okay. So I guess by power level, they're talking about CR, like challenge rating.
I guess. I think I kind of pictured that as like a relative thing. Is this going to be easy? Is this going to be really hard? That sort of thing. If it comes to a fight.
One-on-one, this thing would probably mop the floor with you. But with all of you did together versus this troll, you don't think it stands a chance.
Okay. Everyone, I need to challenge this thing to a duel. No. And then AC and hit points too.
Yes. Okay. Armor class is 15.
Cool.
And hit points is 84.
Okay. Yeah. I think as it goes back under the bridge, I say, do we know it will leave?
By leave, it meant go back under the bridge. I don't think it solved any problem.
Well, effectively, I had used command to cause it to flee, which the target spends its turn moving away from you the fastest available means. So that's probably just under the bridge.
To its home or something. Yeah, so John is kind of, and I guess we're on opposite sides of this thing. We haven't quite come together yet. So a lot of this is nonverbal communication, but so John is like, are we going to do this?
Hey, are you leaving?
After a minute, you see this troll emerge again on the opposite side. It spots you, Sir John and Dane, and it kind of freezes a bit and kind of looks back underneath the bridge and sees Tord on the other side. And then pulls out this basically like half an oxen, throws it over his shoulder, holding it by the leg, and then reaches its hand back in, and out comes a second troll. And then a smaller troll in her arms. And he and the other troll with this trolling take their meat, their belongings, if you will, and move very quickly past you, Sir John and Dane, to escape the wrath of Tord.
Just travel that way about a day's worth and head into the trees. Very few people that way. Don't let me catch you around here again. Your family is quite lovely.
They very quickly move off into the forest.
Once they're out of earshot, Sir John kind of turns to Tord and is like, so will they sing praises of our negotiation skills here?
Sir John, I'm already pissed off. Don't make me send you into the woods.
And here I thought that was a tone for Ari. Huh.
That's it. You're going the right way for a smack bottom.
It won't happen a second time.
Very well. Onward to another city with more people.
Actually, I want Dane to say that out loud. The chat's hopping.
So, are we going to use real swords next time, Tord?
I'll use you as a sword.
Hey, you did good.
You're damn right I did. We left.
They did.
Piss off the lot of you.
Hey, I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Eddard.
Maybe that's what we needed. Maybe because everything that's happened, we're ready to jump at shadows and everything that might be a threat without giving it a chance.
Don't you think I talked to it enough?
Well, I wasn't saying, like, get to know him.
Well, you seen he had a family.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Jesus, Dane, I'm not a murderer.
Are we agreeing? No, or disagreeing? No. That's what I was saying, was you did good.
I can't tell if you really mean that. Well, let's go. Come on. Long day's right ahead of us.
Couple hours back in the opposite direction.
Can't wait to get back to that merchant. So, did you guys take care of the troll?
So, did he lighten his load and help his oxen out any? I probably doubt it.
Go get your cat.
All right. You make your way back to this man on the side of the road. He has not managed to get his oxen to go much further. You notice that the wagon itself actually didn't have much in it. It was almost completely empty. Just a few like rolled up tarps, essentially, kind of stacked to one side. And it does look like he's trying to figure out a way to get one ox to be able to pull this. He's kind of standing there scratching his head, and you notice that sitting next to him on the log that he's sitting on, there's a cask that's been tapped, and he's got a tankard in one hand that's kind of brimming with foam. Oh, welcome back. Did you, you must have fared well if you found the troll and are still standing.
Shan't be a problem any further.
Good. Well, can I offer any of you a drink for your help?
Yes.
Of course, yes. He kind of hops up and moves over to the wagon, kind of slides this kind of long, narrow box out from underneath one of the tarps and opens it, and it's lined with like tankards. And he just starts pulling tankards out and handing them to anybody who wants one. He says, perhaps we got off on the wrong foot before. I am a meager man of the cloth. My name is Friar Brammy Catterwald. It's a pleasure to meet good folk such as yourselves out on the road.
Eddard takes a tankard. Eddard Bainton, Warrenton.
Warrenton? That's, north, is it not?
Yes, far north from here.
You were some far ways from home.
Yeah, it's been some time. I don't plan on going back, but...
Ah, yes, I see. What has made you lot into troll fighters? Not a one of you seems scratched. You must be very capable.
Very capable indeed. Tankard, please.
Our friend Tord took care of the entire ordeal by himself.
Yes, single-handedly.
Well, he hands you a tankard, Tord. I see. You are truly a hero of the land, then, sir. To single-handedly defeat a troll.
Tord angrily sips his ale.
Yes, defeated. Yes. Evicted, too, you might say.
He kind of looks back and forth between the two of you, obviously not getting the end joke. Yes, I was on my way to the town just ahead. I'm told it's only another day and a half or so. I was wondering if you would allow me to further show my hospitality once we arrive.
Do you have lodging to offer or something?
No, but I could pay for yours as a show of thank you. Traveling on the road is obviously dangerous, and having people such as yourselves who are capable of taking care of troubles that may arise could be helpful.
So John kind of looks at everybody else. Thoughts?
We're looking for allies, right?
I don't see the harm in it.
But what church are you part of, Friar?
Oh, well, I suppose it would be the Church of the Road, perhaps. Maybe the Church of the Barrel. He kind of leans and kind of pats the keg next to him as he's kind of continuing to pour.
How does one become a member of this church? I like the sounds of it.
There are others who do not feel I should retain the title of friar, of course. But I say it is not your title that makes you a man of the gods. It is what relies in here and in here. And he kind of taps the keg in here.
Well, we will take you up on your offer of lodging.
Wonderful. Good. If I can only figure out how to get Penelope to pull this cart.
Do I think between my time growing up on a farm, my animal handling, and my survival, I can re-rig his harness so that it's at least center pulled for this oxen, so it's not like trying to pull it at an angle?
Yeah, I think you probably could.
Okay, then
It might take some time.
yeah, that's fine. While they're sitting, talking, and sipping on ale, I'll set about doing that.
So the chit chat kind of continues for a little while Dane works, and at some point, this friar kind of looks up. Oh, it appears he's done it. Well done, boy.
He is quite the capable lad. We're all quite capable. You've seen it.
Yes. You're a bristly fellow, aren't you?
It's been a rough couple of days.
I understand. Have another tankard. And he kind of pushes it into your chest.
Gladly.
He kind of stands and comes over to inspect your handiwork, Dane. Well, I see what. Yes, that makes. I see. I suppose that would make it much easier. Yes. Well, he kind of climbs into the seat. You're welcome to ride in the wagon if you'd like, or continue to ride your horses. Either way. But shall we?
Onward.
He kind of takes up the reins, kind of slaps them against the ox's backside, and she starts to pull. And it works. She manages to kind of pull this wagon back out onto the road, and it lumbers onward. So you continue forward for, like you said, about another day and a half, before you start to see kind of the signs that you're approaching the village. Kind of the outlying farms, most of the forest kind of thinning and cleared out. And eventually you see this small village emerge. There's maybe a dozen buildings here at most. One of which looks like kind of a longhouse that would have the mayor or the reeve or whoever living there. And this is very salt of the earth people. Not a single person here is without a tear in their clothing, dirt on their face and hands. Every person you pass is toiling in some manner. And they're certainly watching you kind of roll in. You kind of head straight towards this longhouse and pull up outside where the friar kind of disembarks from his wagon and heads inside to talk to whoever must be in charge of this town. As you are outside, there is a voice that calls out from not far away. And it says, "Would you look at this giant son of a bitch? Some orc bastard riding in here like he owns this place."
Do I recognize this voice?
Maybe. Perhaps. But if you were to turn around and look for the source, you absolutely do. It's a man that you haven't seen in some time. Another road knight named Thomas Kane. He says, "Nosaka Tord, how are you?"
Well, it looks like someone reeled you out of the ocean.
For the time. And he kind of approaches and extends his hand.
Tord would dismount and give him like a very like hearty like arm grasp and shoulder, God damn it. It's been a while since I've seen you.
It has. As he's kind of greeting you and kind of beaming his, the crow's feet at the corner of his eyes, his kind of leathered face or creased. And those eyes, kind of these kind of blue, steely eyes, turn in the direction of you, Ariana Shial. And the warm, familiar expression on his face melts away in an instant. That is where we're going to stop for this evening. So, thank you everybody very much for tuning in and watching this evening. Thank you very much if you are tuning in and watching in the future. This has been episode 12, titled Sins of the Father. I'm going to pass things over to my players so that they can do outros and whatnot, and then we will put a button on it and call it a night. So first up is Steve.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve. I play Dane. No channel to plug, but I will say thanks for the great game, Jeremy. Missing a month made it seem like forever between being able to play, but as always, great game. Really enjoyed it, and thanks for having me.
Always. Thank you very much for coming in and once again bringing your A game. All right, next up we've got Eli.
Hey everybody. This was, a lot of stuff happened, but I almost feel like I was able to breathe a sigh of relief, and it wasn't just constant chaos and danger. We negotiated with a troll family and displaced them into the forest. So that was on the grand scheme of things. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. This was great. Thanks, Jeremy. It was really good. You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter, and I'll see you folks later. Yeah, man. This whole game is
filled with unexpected turns, and not just things that I'm kind of throwing in y'all's way. So it's a lot of fun to see how this all kind of plays out in the wash. I'm really excited to see where it's gonna go next. So next up, we've got Baron.
Hello, everyone. I'm Baron. I played Tord, the charismatic orc paladin, who is probably the closest thing we got to like a leader, you know. So, just kidding. I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, always a pleasure, Baron. Next up, we have Josh.
Hey dudes and dudettes, my name is Josh. I played Eddard Bainton tonight. You can find me on YouTube at Roll the Bones, and you can find me on Twitter at Roll the Bones TV. Again, yeah, like I want to echo Steve's sentiments about how absence makes the heart grow fonder. It was really good to get back together with you guys and play. A great game. Some definitely unexpected things happened, but I think Chad had said it best in the chat. It's a very serious game, but there always has to be that, there's just a little bit, every now and then where we can make light of everything. And I think that's what one of the things that really ties the game together. So thanks everybody for playing. Thank you, Jeremy, for running the game. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to the next session.
Thank you, Josh. Absolutely. There's a lot of tension in this game, a lot. So having those little breaks in the tension is a very welcome release. I think it definitely helps the pacing a lot. And it keeps all of these characters from liking each other too much, which is awesome. All right, last but certainly not least, Karen.
Hello, everyone. Let's not miss another month. I don't want to do that again because I like playing all the time. I now know what Tord feels like usually when we leave a game and it's his ass on the line. I'm not wanting to end right now. I'm like, this is, everybody else is feeling like, not tense and not stressed. And I'm like shaking right now. I'm like, no. I mean, if he's a friend of Tord's, right? He's got to be pretty bad. So thank you for a great game. That was awesome. And I cannot wait for the next session.
Likewise. So everybody who has mentioned a channel, you should be able to find the link to that in the description of this video down below. I absolutely urge you to please go check out what they do. Not only are all of these people very gifted players and dungeon masters, game masters in their own right, but they are also just fantastic people. They're good friends of mine, largely due to this game in a lot of ways. So go check them out. Give them some love. Speaking of love, I love all of you guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. And until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach. Oh, that's end meeting. That's not noob.